I try not to hold thoughts in my head. I try to just let it come and go as it pleases, if I can. Sometimes I get lost and kind of like a sort of like a dimension where like you're just trapped in one idea and you think that applies to everything, and
Mm,
that's a hard tongue twister to get out of. And I'm
mm.
just trying to learn to not let my ideas get stuck, if that makes any sense.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Because oh, I was gonna say, like, I think when I was having my awakening or breakthrough with myself, I watched V for Vendetta 7 times over and over again, and I was just like, "Oh no, it's this reality," and then like my mind like made manifest this whole storyline, and that wasn't good. That was a crazy ride. So I have to be careful about like taking concepts and holding on to them. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think
So.
so. I feel like I've had a similar realization, eh, and earlier on in my awakening, I was not aware that these thoughts, which are forming a story in my mind, are. I didn't realize that I can actually just watch them, and I don't need to necessarily engage with them. Because if I engage with
Mhm.
them, then it feels like it's true. Whereas I had this realization where I was noticing the thoughts, but I was feeling like, well, hang on, I don't feel like I'm actually the one putting those thoughts there. It's almost as if
Mhm.
I'm watching a movie in a sense, and that movie or a script. I'll use the word script. The script is appearing in my mind, almost as if it
Mhm.
is a script for a story. But I don't necessarily have to go along with that script. I can create my own
Mhm.
story, and that doesn't cause me to go down a path towards suffering, and it's a story that doesn't serve me in any way. Is that at all
It's like
resonating with you? Is that
yeah, yeah. It's like well, I can't remember the words verbatim, but like when you force a narrative or you force an idea, then it deviates from its natural self, and it's kind of like when we hold on to things, our brain does what it does beautifully. It's just it manifests, it creates ideas, it starts to play with it, have fun with it, and we have to be mindful that our brain is it's a tool, and sometimes when we go off into these scripts, and we start wholeheartedly believing in what we're thinking, then the mind doesn't know if it's reality or if it is imagination. So then it goes off into kind of like a wanderlust, kind of like space, so to speak, and it's hard to come back because you're so lost in the story. And that's where I have been. It's like I've been overwhelmed with a lot of information. A lot of people are giving me good advice and things like that. But my mind's being overwhelmed with so much. I have to come back to center, be still, let it just flow. And that's where I'm trying to master myself is, keep sure that I keep the center and not let anything control my emotions one way or another. Because once I'm lost trying to fill a narrative or trying to force something, then it deviates. So that's why I try to come back to this flow center where, I go with the river or go with the flow, kind of, so to speak. And it happens to everyone, and it happens to me too. And I don't think it's a sign of weakness or a sign of failure. I think it's a sign of something we have to learn from. As you said, you don't have to grab onto it. You just have to kind of be an observer and experience what you're going through and experience how that feels, but don't have to necessarily hold on to it because we temporarily change. Another good quote I heard recently was, "Don't make changes to a temporary emotion." So if you are lost in one emotion, wait a bit. Don't try to just make a irrational decision saying this is it, this is the key. We can get very lost in our fantasies and stuff like that. So it's really good just have a good sense of like, don't get too happy, don't get too sad, just kind of be in the center. And it's still today. I'm 30 years old. I'm still trying to learn myself, and sometimes I'm like, I'm not masterful. But then I have friends and the people I talk to say, hey, you are a master. It's just, masters still have to learn as well. And that's where I collectively try to not attach myself to one thing or another. Like you say, it's just let it go. Another thing too is I'm trying to work on my breathing as well. Like, so if I talk too much, just let me know. And I definitely appreciate you, telling me that, because I feel a lot more normal because, I had the same experience.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you telling me that, actually. I mean, it's interesting because this podcast, I'm still exploring different ways of communicating. And I find that talking in monologues is the most, for me, seems the most beneficial way, because everything you just said there, I was listening to it, but I was also in tune with how I resonate with it and how it makes me feel. And then and then you can properly express yourself without being concerned that I might butt in. So you can really manifest what it is you're trying to say in a way that I can understand it.
Yeah. I was gonna say is that I don't want to go too far, because like I should explain the point and then let go. Don't try to hold on to it.
Right? Yeah. I see. Yeah.
I do that sometimes, and I need to be like, hey, you're rambling.
Okay. So is that like when you say you're concerned you're rambling? Is it because you're concerned that you feel like you might be spending too much time concentrating on this one train of thought, that you're missing out on the present moment, you're missing out on other thoughts that may emerge, or is it like also a social thing? Is it also you don't want to bore the other person? Because you're not boring me in any way, or is it?
Ooh, I like your question. That's a good question. For me, with the kind of mindfulness that I have to have, you have the right perspective. I would say you have a good perspective of what you're saying, like, holding on to your train or just that one train of thought. Letting go is a sense of like, it does not need to be something over the top. As a master would say, or as a coach or mentor, their whole job is to describe a moon. And, when they're describing the moon, they're using fingers, and you're focused on the finger, not the moon. So less time talking with the finger, more time understanding the subject itself. So it's not about me, it's about understanding the thought and then letting go and stepping back. Because you don't want to just keep digging at it, and then you lose purpose. Or so it becomes, this, like what I'm doing now. It's just describing it too much. But yeah, for me, it's just to make it simple and then describe it, say it, and then let it go. And rambling is good, but it sometimes hinders the point, because as a master, you want to be just clear, direct, and not get lost in a thought too much, because you want to be able to flow, not be stuck on one thing or another, because our bodies are always flowing with information and letting things in and then letting things go. And I have to be very cautious with my words.
So is this because you mentioned, I'm under the impression you know a certain amount of stuff about Taoism. And I know I wouldn't call myself a Buddhist, but I've been going to the Triratna Buddhist Center in Cambridge before I moved to Glastonbury. I was actually taken in by Zen Buddhism. I was interested in koans. I think koans are quite an interesting way of exploring ideas, because it's short. You can say it quickly, and then you can sort of meditate on it. What does that mean? What does that mean to me? And you're not lost rambling, because I've been finding a lot lately that my mind has been overly analyzing my feelings. So I have a feeling, and then my mind is like, okay, so what does this mean? And then loads of variables come along, and then this thought starts tries to outthink this thought, then this thought, and this thought. Try to outthink this thought, then this thought, this thought, this thought, this thought, and it just gets bigger and bigger, and it's like, I'm lost.
Your mind, your mind it manifests. So like when you're saying this, basically if I did this and I kept my hand moving around the room, like, you know, like if it was like this, like my whole hand covers up my whole brain. So then you can't think and you become lost because you lost track of the beginning. So most of myself just says come back to center, come back to listening. I lost my train of thought. But come back to you know, just the main idea. Don't let it become too much, so to speak. And that's my friend Lily, by the way.
Hi, Lily. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I've noticed lately that I do lose my train of thought. Yeah, so I'm thinking something, and then the language that I use, I introduce a new concept, and then that concept then sends me off a tangent. And then
Like
once I'm done expressing
off.
that concept, I then have to reverse back to my original point, and then it's a bit like I just pause for a little minute and try and bring myself back. But sometimes I get lost, and then it's like, well, the whole reason I started saying something was for a reason that I thought was worth expressing, whereas I've lost that reason now, so I've kind of failed here in a way.
It's overthinking. I do it all the time. Like I talk to a mastermind that who's a little bit older than me, but there's a lot of like residence and story and life past. And when I try to think too hard or I'm overwhelmed, I'm thinking too much. Therefore, I've lost the idea. I lost it because I'm going too far. You know, things are. That's why I try to be simplistic, be very mindful of that simplicity. So it's not to spoon-fed somebody or treat someone differently. It's just that's how a mind takes in information. It has to flow and has to be like the wind. It comes when it needs to, and then it goes when it has to. It doesn't have to stay, but you know it's there. And it's just something I think we grasp over mindfulness and stuff. Like, you know, when I hold on to an idea, I had an incident where last night I had a person who I love was screaming and yelling at me and was in frustration, which I didn't know the word frustration at the time or understand why, but I got lost in that emotion. I was anxiety driven. I was like, okay, how do I fix this? What do I do? Oh no. And I talked to a friend and they said, stop. They're being dramatic. They are drawing you in, and you just have to love them, and that everything else when they're frustrated or yelling at you, and if they're a loved one, that frustration's a lie, and the only truth is love. So let that stuff go, and you know you will be fine. So I went back to her and said, hey, I love you, and I will always love you, and I'm going to talk to you in the morning, okay? And then the next morning when I woke up with, you know, talking to her, she said, I'm sorry, I was frustrated, and I didn't mean the things I said because I love you. So there's times when, you know, the mind doesn't know how to handle things, or the mind's trying to put pieces together. But sometimes it's just good to just let go and take a step back and just let it all work itself out in a sense, if that makes sense.
I think so. Yeah, this is resonating. The thing I'm now thinking is because we're now expressing our truths or our perception of truth to each other, and the way of doing that is to sort of rationalize the irrational and put it into language so that we can express it to one another. So I think there's kind of good things and bad things about it, so it can be overdone. This is sort of what I'm exploring, because this whole concept, this whole podcast is about talking. It's about allowing the thoughts to manifest into language and to flow. It does feel like it's flowing now. I feel like I feel like I'm sort of searching in a way a little bit, but I'm not like in my mind, you know, where's the right word? Can't find it. But
I love that. I'll go to Google and look up a word. I have trouble spelling, so I can't always get the right word. So sometimes I'll immediately just go to to Google and be like, oh, where's that one thing? Because it resonates with this. It's like Tetris. I'm like, oh, I need that specific long
Yeah.
block to go over here in this corner. Oh, and that T block needs to go in that left corner. And let me go find where I put that T block real fast. So yeah, it's fun, and the mind's beautiful in that way because it sees patterns. It sees its own path without really noticing the path, so to speak. Sometimes you're just flying blind, and that can be a good thing. Not all who wander are lost. It's all about exploration. And what's fascinating to me about having this conversation with you is that I get to explore my mind with another person who has a same kind of wonder, and is trying to figure their mind out as much as I am. So I feel like we're on the same level there, and I never look at. And I want to just say this: it's not really to this point, but I always like to see everyone as equal. I don't see anyone as higher or less. I think we're all working together, or all collectively like trees, trying to collect light, embrace it, and understand it one way or another. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to me. So I appreciate this too. And thank you for inviting me on this podcast, by the way. I'm really excited about just talking and just expressing these kind of emotions because it can be difficult alone. It can definitely be hard to see it sometimes.
Yeah, thank you for expressing that. I really appreciate that. I completely agree. I feel like we are equal. I feel like we are one, in the sense that I feel like we are all the same higher intelligence that we are expressions of our higher selves, exploring ourselves. This is kind of I feel this intuitively, and so with this podcast, I really appreciate these conversations because it helps me to discover myself, especially when I'm talking to you, and I feel like what you're saying, I do feel like we're on a similar wavelength. So I feel safe to kind of express these things to you, and I feel like in expressing it to you, I'm also expressing it to myself in a way that I can understand it. So it's for me, this whole project is self-discovery, and it's also inviting others to discover themselves, and it's also a way of being able to discover one another. And the name Love Army, I want to talk a little bit just briefly. Basically, it's the word's oxymoron. I think where love, what you said earlier about you think that the truth is, you feel like the truth is love, and I resonate with that. I feel like love is what drives all life, and love to me is positivity. It's saying thank you. It's seeing children playing in the playground and hearing their laughter. It's seeing a couple hold hands. It's birds singing. It's life itself. It's love. But then the word army sort of implies
force.
So kind of attacking people in a sense. So attacking other armies and what's the word I'm looking for?
Conquer.
Yeah, exactly. Conquer and dominate. So it's an oxymoron. So I like to bring those ideas together. So I want to put out loads of love, and I want to conquer the world with the love that's already there. Like love is there, but I think hatred is just a lack of being able to see the love. So I think love is the truth, and illusion is so hatred is illusion. I think suffering is illusion. It's just not being able to see the love, and we've lost sight of it. So yeah, this is kind of my idea for this podcast. I wanted to ask you actually about Taoism. I wanted to know what you could teach me.
We got sidetracked it, and we were talking about it, and then I explained like how I was saying, like, I have to be very mindful of my words and not distract people with my words pointing to the moon when people should be focused on the moon,
Yeah.
and Taoism to me came into my life around 2017, 2018, and I started to actually like Google definitions and try to understand what my teachers were teaching me, which I had a lot of mentors, a lot of Zen masters, and you wouldn't call them in day-to-day Zen masters. You would see them as normal people, but how they interact with the world, how they describe things or do things, you could see the mastery in it, and I could see it, but no one else could see. And I was just like, that guy knows, that guy knows, that girl is definitely on a new level, and it was beautiful to me because I tried to learn from her. I'd ask them questions, I'd ask dumb questions, I'd ask questions that were good questions, growing up for me, I don't. This is all coming back to Taoism. Growing up for me, I didn't have a father figure to teach me a lot of life itself. So I had to go kind of figure out my own philosophies, figure out my own rules, and I disobeyed a lot of rules and went against the curve because I was wondering what's the fear and stuff like that. So, but coming back to now, I've been always just trying to figure out myself and what started me to look into Taoism before that even came up in 2017, 2016. I had a good conversation with a man named JJ who ran a sausage work beef shop. And I and him had the same dark humor, and we shared like these dark jokes and just laughed at, problems and suffering because that's a way to cope. And it's funny when you can make jokes of those kind of things. But one day we were talking, and I was feeling like I was a bad guy. I felt like I was a monster, or not good, or a sociopath, or I felt like, am I a good person? And JJ came to me serenely in a nice, calm way. It's like a psychopath doesn't question himself, Dalton, and you have too much to question to be a psychopath. But he also says that you're dwelling in your suffering, and that's causing you to just reflect a lot and not moving forward. And he asked me, have you heard of philosophy? And I was like, what is philosophy? And then that spiraled a lot of mindfulness to go read mentors and people who have lived a life, who had to figure it out on the front lines. And what I mean by front lines is that they didn't have a big mentor in front of them guiding them. They had to figure it out by themselves, by what knowledge they gained from their masters, from their fathers, from their comrades that fought alongside them. And that gave me such appreciation that, oh, good, I don't have to know. I just have to learn. And I learned from Marcus Aurelius first, and that was Stoicism, and that was a lot for me. I loved it, but it's not for me. I'm a Epicurean kind of cat. I like pleasure. I dived into vices and stuff like that for a while, but I also realized that I can't dwell in vices because I'm not dealing with things. And then it came Taoism, and that was the yin and yang, and that opened me up honestly and spoke to me because I love playing games with myself. I like mind games. I like playing with people and seeing how they react, like positive or negative. And it excites me that, how should I say, I learned later on this phrase, but this phrase was so much fun to me as a kid, was those who make you mad become your master. So if I can control someone's emotions to go one way or another, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And people would take it as like, hey, that's bad, and you need to stop that. And I'll be like, okay, I was just having fun. But in Taoism, it's sort of like, understanding the dark and light complement each other, up and down, chase each other, and left or right doesn't matter. So Taoism really spoke to me as a character, and it taught me about embracing your dark and embracing your light, because you would not be one without the other. And I've had these references throughout my life and many experiences, like where life is saying, "Hey, dummy, wake up! You're alive." And I'm just like, "Wait, who's that? That's who said that?" And then I would just go back to doing my dumb stuff, which is fine. It's just it took me a long time to embrace that kind of philosophy, and the religion of Taoism to me just resonates well with my character, with my being. And before I even studied Taoism, I'm going to be honest, like 2017, when I was going back to the circle, but going back to the beginning where I was saying, like, where I discovered Taoism and stuff, it was just Googling references. It was like, what's nirvana? And that's when you're between happy and sad, and you are kind of on your mountaintop, just gazing at the sunlight and gazing at the moon that's behind you, and you're just one with everything. And I had that experience during mushrooms and psychedelics and stuff like that, microdosing, but I wasn't able to obtain that clarity. And that was another word I didn't learn until 2020, this year, clarity. And clarity is when you can see both and be rational with it. And when those moments of clarity did come in my life, I would try very hard to write things down for myself, to remind myself this is what clarity is, without saying a word. And I am not very knowledgeable, but I have a lot of wisdom, and that kind of guided me to be where I'm in today. And with that wisdom, it says, "Hey, this feels good. Maybe I should record it. Maybe I should make notes of it, so then I can come back, like little breadcrumbs, so I can come back to this center where my mind's very peaceful." And I think overall my mind wanted peace from its suffering for a long, long time. And Taoism helped me with that, because I felt guilty about this, or I felt too good about that. And the mind doesn't need to register a label for good and evil. It has to take everything in and let it teach you what it knows. And I was, just trying to explore why this, why that. And it also goes back to questioning everything, and Taoism, Taoism, the philosophy is that man has to get comfortable with not knowing everything, because there is not a higher power just sitting over you and saying, "Hey, I'm going to give you all this information." You have to sort of put things together and accept what you can find, and accept what you can not talk about, but what you can grasp, and be okay with that. And I think that was me, because I was such a controlling person, such an angry person, because I wanted to be dominant, or I wanted to make things happen. And I would get so angry. But when I stopped trying to get questions, when I stopped trying to be something that I didn't have to be, I felt a lot more enlightened, and I felt more easier. I felt like things were like melting off my chest like butter, and it just started like hacking away at stuff that is not important, and that gave me a lot of value into my life, when I could embrace that. And I'm still learning, and I don't want to say that I have mastered it. I'm still playing with it, and there's a lot of people out there who've done this for 14, 19 years, and I've met a person who's been training for 30 years. And it's just, I have a long way to go, but for my sake, I said Zen Master, because that's what I want to strive for long ago. And that's where it came with Taoism, is that I want to be at peace with my yin and my yang, so to speak. Does that answer some of your questions?
Yeah, that was an amazing answer. As you were speaking, questions were coming up in my mind, but I didn't want to. I wanted to keep on listening to you. So some of my questions have kind of like I've lost some of them.
Yeah. And that's one thing too, is like I don't want to ramble too much. So then you get some information and you can ask about parts of it. So then like what part you don't understand, you could be like, "Hey, this one's interesting. How does this work? How does that work?"
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in to two parts that I can remember you saying. two parts in particular.
Perfect.
One being light and dark. So the word you used was nirvana. I think that's the same. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the same as awe. Is it AWE awe? Or I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but it's like the acceptance of light and dark, and just sitting with it and allowing it, and not labeling these things as good and bad.
That's a good question. It's interesting. The one thing that comes to my mind is Om, like Om. But I don't think I've never heard of awe.
Okay.
Again, I know of Buddhism, but I have not studied Buddhism. Buddhism is my next philosophy adventure that I want to be diving into, and stuff like that. But yes, continue. What was your next question?
Yeah, well, I was thinking, like, because I remember during my ayahuasca experience, I do remember being at complete, nirvana. I'll use the word nirvana from here on out. I felt at complete, like there was so much fear, because for me ayahuasca, it really brought out that fear, and allowed me to kind of see it and recognize it and be able to work with it. And at the same time, there was so much like wonder and love, and life was so, all of my senses were had just exploded, and like,
sounds like you're overwhelmed.
It wasn't overwhelming, but it was a sense of just pure. There was so much balance of light and dark, like so much fear, but also so much like not acquiescing to the fear, and just allowing it, and just proceeding.
I get overwhelmed, so I asked a friend who's practiced, like he's practicing something where he can astral project and stuff like that, and does a lot of wizardry and practices a lot of different things. What was he saying? Shoot, I lost the thought. But he was saying something on the. It's something on the lines when when he was explaining life to me, and everything was like, collecting to E equals to MC squared, and he was explaining like math problems and things to me. My mind was so overwhelmed. I was like, oh man, I'm feeling fear. And he's like, do you feel fear, or is it something else? And I was like, well, maybe it's anxiousness, because I'm tired, and all this information so much, and my brain's trying to process everything. And then I was like, oh, if I'm trying to process too much, I'm overthinking, and then my mind gets clogged, and then I lost the thought entirely. So I was like, I need to go to bed. But I remember the foundations and what he was explaining. And as you said, you had that sense of fear. Was it truly fear, or is it just like, when you have all that energy, you're just like anxious, and you feel like you got to stim it out, like, and then you come back. That's what I'm kind of wondering with that Nirvana experience for yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. So with my ayahuasca experiences, so I was in the Amazon in February. I went to an ayahuasca dieta, and there are five ceremonies, also one Kambo ceremony, and the ayahuasca, the first 20 minutes of going up to the shaman, I was the second person to drink, and before, there were 30 of us, and before the last person had taken a sip, I was already feeling the effects. And I had never experienced ayahuasca before this, and the first sensation I experienced was that, and as my mind was conceptualizing it, it was that I am love. I am creating love. It is inside of me, and it is expanding to all areas of my body. And at that point onwards, I realized I love myself. I absolutely love myself, and I gave myself the biggest hug I've ever received, and still to this day, the best hug I have ever received was from myself. I was like this, I was like, oh. And before that, I would never have even considered hugging myself. But to get back onto the question,
Yeah.
um,
Oh wait, before you go any further, I wanted to say like when I had my awakening, I had to love myself. Like I had to like communicate with my mind, like, hey, my dark and light. And it was kind of a weird situation for me is that I had to talk to myself and really get to know my inner self with my outward self, like consciousness and subconscious. And having that back and forth, I realized I love you, and it's like I love you too. And then once I had that back and forth, like a tennis match back and forth, I realized that, oh, that's how I connect with my energy. That's how I connect with my spirit. And I told now I when I wake up, I have a mantra or ritual where I'll say I love you, close my eyes, I love you too, and then that keeps me kind of with what you said, like knowing that I love myself, knowing that love is a very beautiful thing that connects us all, and love is the true nature of life. Is that energy or that particular feeling. So I'm with you. So what was the next thing you're saying?
yeah, I think the love for myself really opened myself up because I think in that moment, I remember not necessarily telling myself, but feeling I found myself. Like all these years, I've been seeking, like the exterior, trying to find ways of filling in the gaps, filling in the holes, numbing,
I remember.
numbing, numbing the pain. And then at that moment, I realized that I don't need it. I don't need anything. I have myself, and I love myself, and that's where it
Yeah, that's why
begins.
I'm
That's where
sober
the
now too.
magic.
It's like I don't need anything else. And
Yeah.
you came to me. We talked on Instagram, and we when we met, like you're doing music, you're doing like all these cool things, and I don't know where I was. I'm still like searching for myself. I'm still trying to help people, and I think a lot of helping people helped myself. And we had some deep talks about just life, and you were trying to not let your ego control you, and you really had battling with your demons. And I was like, this is great. He's really trying to push himself and stuff like that. And again, I was a lot younger, and I was a lot in my own problems and stuff too. But I was really in a condition where I was like, if I love somebody, help somebody, then I can love myself too. I can be accepted. And that was kind of like my baseline back then, because I didn't love myself. I had no reason to hug myself, because I loved people, and I was able to really help people grow. But after they left, I was like, what is this all for? I just feel empty. No one understands me. And then I would drift into that kind of mindset for a long time. And it does help to have like a shaman or someone who's a good teacher, or someone who can nurture you and help you grow. And I think that's why I always look for mother figures, father figures, and people like a tree, just to help me grow from a sapling and grow out and just be still, be happy with self. And I think through that whole process, you've grown immensely, and I've grown in my own ways too, and I always felt like you were gonna figure it out, like somehow, like having these conversations that you love talking about, or having those long deep conversations we ended on. It sounded like you were on the right track to find that love for yourself, that energy that you've been seeking all that time. And once you get it, you're just like, oh, that's me. And you really, and you're like, why am I hugging myself? I don't care. I love myself. And that's a good feeling. And I'm proud that you got what you're looking for. Like your mind was telling you, hey, go see this shaman. He'll set you right. And I don't know the words you told me, but it sounds like a psychedelic time, whatever you drink.
Yeah,
And I think
ayahuasca.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. And
Thank
again,
you.
I've never had a shamans. I never met shamans. But now that I've been online and I'm knowing what I'm looking for connection wise, I've actually ran into a couple shamans, and I ran into a couple people who are really well connected with light working and love energy and stuff like that. So they're definitely out there once you seek them. For sure, you'll start to see them everywhere almost. Yeah,
Yes.
but continue. What was that? So you got in line. There's 40 people with you, and they're all seeing the shaman. You know what happened with your nirvana? What was going on
Yeah,
with the
so
light and dark?
you've said something. I feel like I want to rewind a tiny bit. So when the ceremony began, just before it began, so there was me and a few other people who had never drunk before, and our shaman. He was called Don Gino Shakaruna, bridge, which means bridge man,
Awesome.
from like the ancient tradition, shamanic tradition to the
Oh,
modern
he's
day.
basically like a ferryman. He carries you to the other side that you're looking for. I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a
His
pretty cool
name,
name.
exactly. That name just really resonated with me. And basically, he asked me to sit with him, and he asked me a few questions like, are my family, are my parents together, and he just wanted to get a sense of my past. And he told me to close my eyes, and he guided me to my house, and when I was 8, and I could see myself, the 8-year-old version of me, and I was looking into his eyes, and I went into his eyes, into his head, into his face, and became him. So I am the 8-year-old, and I'm looking out at the world, and I'm looking in at my inner world. And he then just asked the simple question: what word would you use to describe your current reality? And without thinking, that's the point, you don't think, you just have to feel it, feel how you felt.
Yep.
And I said,
Exactly.
confusion, which I had never even really considered before that moment. So I went into the ceremony with that intention in mind of confusion, and so it's become very relevant. And so then to fast forward to when I found myself, there was no confusion. It had all been worked out. But then after that, it was only about 20 minutes, and I was thinking, I was, because my experience with LSD is, it's like you're peaking and then you're coming down. Whereas ayahuasca, it's like, there's no like, it's not like a roller coaster. It's
not there for the effects of being like high dopamine. It's not the effects for a pleasure or a like a sense of highness. I think what resonates with that is that it was just more. It cleared up a lot when you were spinning your hand like that. It just sounds like it was like a mop cleaning a floor. Like you needed your mind to extinguish all that other stuff and just move it away, so then that you could see yourself like you're like a window that it just came over a lot of dust, or it had a lot of fog, and over time it does get clogged with just the world itself. So taking a rag and washing off and washing on, that kind of like mindset, it gives you that clarity to see what you're looking for. And when you say a good thing that you said, you don't think but feel, that's what Bruce Lee was saying to us all along: is don't think about it, just feel it. And that's where I don't really hold concepts, and I'm like a dog chasing cars. Wouldn't know if I caught it. If I do catch it, I'm just like, what the fuck do I do with this car? So I have to always like go. And that's like my mind is like, if I try to hold on to things, that's where it becomes a problem. And I'm just like, oh God, oh God, why isn't this moving? Why is that moving? So it's definitely letting go, and just, not saying like be nothing, but don't hold on to nothing. Just let the world experience and embrace it. Like when I come out here, I don't expect there to be sunlight, but if there is sunlight, oh my gosh, I'm just, sunlight, you know. And I don't. And then another thing I've been learning too is to not label anything, and that's been hard. That's been really hard to do. So that's another mastery I'm working on later in life, or now, so to speak. But yeah, I think it comes back to you. It's just that you were experiencing clarity. You could see yourself in the window. You could see yourself through, all these things that kind of confused you. And that's really powerful that you had that experience with someone who could guide you in a more natural feeling way than just like, hey, take this and see where your mind goes. Like acid or, I had an acid experience like that too. My friend come over and was like, man, I'm a light beacon, and he's a sage, and he's very mindful and able to talk like da-da-da-da, and he was just, it's like Bruce Lee kick. It's really fast. And when it comes to the acid part, like I was like, oh sure, and then he drips like 4 like globs of acid onto my tongue, and I have like the most like whoa kind of experience. But it's not important. The thing with like Bruce Lee that comes back to it is that don't think, feel, and be like water. Just flow with it and let yourself just kind of mold the situation, so to speak. Yeah. I totally get where you're coming from with this kind of experience with a shaman, and I like how he did that. I think that's pretty freaking cool. Still, it confuses me, and I also want to say I'm confused. I'm a very confused person. I still have lots to learn, I would say, and I have clarity, but sometimes I lose clarity. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. So clarity. Yeah. So. Yeah, I'm not really after happiness. I'm not trying to. That's not really the end game. It seems to be like clarity is what I'm trying to get towards. Because as soon as I get to clarity, it's then when I can see my past and I can see my future and I can see where I've fallen down and I've gone back up again.
That sounds like vision. Like you can envision.
Yes.
Like you have vision. Yeah, clarity is more of like. Just listening to your intuition and let it guide you. That's more of clarity. Is like you can just go. I think what you're describing is visions. Like you can see future, you can see the past, and that's just having that eye to go back and discover things you didn't see before. And future-wise, I'm still learning. I don't really think of the future too much. I don't really try to. I live day to day, shoe by shoe, step by step, breath by breath kind of deal. So I don't have much vision. But once my friend told me I unlocked that, or accept my intuition, which I need to spend more time meditating, more time listening to my intuition and being conscious. I'll be able to see the future just like you're saying. But right now, I haven't been focused on that. I've been just focusing on just, hey, let's just stay to the center, and then we'll worry about deviating from that later on.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose myself again, and I've been through a lot, so I'm just like, stay to the center right now. We'll worry about going out there later.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you just raised, I think, because when I have these moments of I use the word clarity in this sense because I had a meditation, a guided meditation once, where I was guided up a mountain, and it was sacred. I remember just being at the top of it, and I could just remember seeing. So I couldn't see. So I wasn't conceptualizing in the sense that I couldn't see what food I had last Tuesday, or what my friend said to me on May the 5th, 2002. It was more so I could see where I have gone wrong, and I was able to like send love to my past and forgive my past, and that really helped me to see where I could go in the future. In a sense, it helped me to integrate my lessons of life, and
you had to kind of forgive yourself, like from your past mistakes, and learn from us.
Exactly. And
awesome.
I could see ahead of me. I could see a lot of darkness, and I think this was around about the time where I was telling you about my demons, and I was right. Yeah. I love my demons. They're it's good to I think one of the things that my shaman taught me is to when you encounter you know dark entities, dark spirits, demons, whatever words we want to use, not to send them love, to accept them, to invite them into the space, and to say, well, look, how can I help you, or what can I do for you? And I
That's
think,
awesome because hey, I got a story with that. I had when I was in the psych ward and I was going to bed. I was in a dark room and I was going to my room and there was no lights on. And there was a man who was not very coherent, like speech wise, and I didn't know. But I had this off energy about him. Like I came into my room, turned the light on, and there's a man just sleeping in my bed. And immediately my mind wants to send like alarms and like, oh God, this is not good. And I look at him and I treat him with kindness. Like, hey man, my bed is your bed if you need to stay here. My clothes are your clothes. Whatever you need, brother, I'm here for you. He gets up and he stands up next to me and he just stares into my eyes. And like for some reason I felt no fear. So I just like stared at him as he stared at me. And I just kept being mindful breathing. I just kept smiling at him. And then he didn't say anything. He just walked away. And that kind of moment, like, wow, that's cool. I didn't have to, like, say, hey, get out of my bedroom or do this or that. It was, having that mindfulness that, hey, don't try to, use fear and try to embrace it, try to understand it, trying to accept what's going on. And then after he left, the nurses and everyone panicked, like, hey, he escaped. So it was an interesting situation. But yeah, as the shaman was saying to you, go ahead and continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no,
It's just
that's
something
I'm
that
glad you did.
resonated with me.
That was interesting, and actually that takes it back to the original point I was going to make about fear and darkness and light. Because what happened next after that experience of loving myself, realizing I love myself. Okay, so I was ready for the next cup. I felt like I was ready. That was so naive of me. I didn't get up, of course, but I noticed suddenly it was happening again, and I could see this is where the DMT was coming in, because ayahuasca is a mixture of has DMT, and ayahuasca is sort of the spirit of the experience, and then the DMT is what explodes it and what it sort of brings you into that space. Ooh. And so I was encountered with beings like, and they were sort of like doing this to me. I could see that they were in some way, they were engaging with me, and perhaps they were like giving me their energy or vice versa. There was nothing, I couldn't quite understand what was going on, but there was nothing, I don't want to use the word bad, but there was nothing to fear, exactly. However, I then suddenly, about 10 minutes in, I was in a very meditative space. I was really calm. My eyes were open a little bit.
Before you go on, I want to comment on that experience where you had that DMT experience. I was talking to this wizard, and he calls himself like a grand wizard, and he kind of knows the universe. And from what I've talked to him, he's all about love. Hey, if you love me, I love you. And I was like, I love you, man. And he's like, you want me to teach you how to be like, teach you the way of the universe? And I was like, I got nothing but time. And he expressed what you just expressed, and it wasn't, I don't think he was in DMT. He actually astro projected at 17, and he went so far. He went through galaxies, he went through nebulas, he went through the far side of space, and he came across these two entities, and he couldn't describe their bodies, but he said one sounded like a little girl, and it echoed. And then also under that echo, it sounded like an older mother. So it's like a young girl / old mother. So that kind of reminds me of my master, of the old master, old boy. So he was describing that like, I get it. That there's something resonating with me there. And he says he couldn't understand them, but how they talked, like the young girl and the mother voice, and they echoed. It was like emitting like a frequency. He said you know, for me, I would be scared. I would be like, oh God, I got 3 o'clock. Let's go back and go get some snacks. And but him, he was like, no, I didn't feel any fear. I didn't feel like surrender. I wanted to stay there. Like that's where I wanted to be. Like, and when he was honing in on that, I think that's kind of like where the DMT takes you. Is that it shows you. The universe. It shows you that you are connected energy of the universe. Therefore, we are vessels harnessing energy. But maybe I'm going too far off subject for you. But he was describing that to me yesterday. So it was very interesting, that you got to see probably what he got to see in some kind of retrospect, is that you don't feel fear, but it's something that it connects with you, and it's beautiful, And you needed to see that, I think. Like, you were looking for that kind of thing. Why? Or that resonance. So I think that's really awesome. Go ahead and continue. I'm sorry. I didn't mean
No,
to
that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I didn't really know how to. I didn't really understand why that was happening, and I don't know if that matters or not. But what happened next was this is the most significant part, and it basically is the rest of the entire dieta, all 5 ceremonies, was the most the most awful of it was a dreadful feeling, and it was just fear, absolute fear at its most maximized effect. And
you were in terror.
Like, I was
you were
terrified. I was absolutely terrified. Not of these entities, they had gone by then, but it was just the feeling of being taken to my fear. And I remember thinking, what am I afraid of? And this has been, and I still, it's been a recent realization now, actually. And the thing I'm afraid of the most is the fear itself. So I'm afraid of the mind. I'm afraid of my mind. I'm afraid of losing myself. So I'm a lot more taking seriously what I put into my mind, what energy I'm exposed to, what thoughts I associate with, and what medicines I work with, and what setting. Because there have been moments where I've felt that sensation of just utter terror. Like, I've never been so afraid in my life, ever, before or after. And it's that, it's not a bad thing. It's not what you were saying about labeling. There's no need to label it as a bad thing, because there's quite a lesson to it, and because it really brought out my inner warrior. Because I remember, like, about 2 hours later, Don Gino said, "Would anyone like cup number 2? Come to the mother's house. Do you feel the mother? Do your work." And all these things. And I remember just like a lot of what he was saying, I felt like he was speaking directly to me. I know he wasn't. He was speaking to all of us. But at that moment in time, I could feel like he wasn't talking to Harry. He wasn't talking to this human being. He was talking to the spirit that is inhabiting this body, and I could feel my spirit lift up my body, and whoa, my body I was standing up, and I was like, whoa, really stumbling over. I couldn't even look him in the eye. I was really afraid, but and then I sat down, and like during the most like awfulest, like the most, not awful, but the most terrifying experience of my life, and he said, "Do you feel the mother?" And I say, "I feel the mother. I certainly do." But it was more like yes. It wasn't like I wasn't laughing about it. I was still in that terror, and I drank the cup, and I sat down, and I remember just being like, "What have I done? What have I just done?" But I was so proud. To this day now, that was the most proud thing I can think of. The warrior stood up and was like, Harry, you've got to do this for yourself, for the ancestors, your ancestors who have brought us this precious opportunity of life, who have fought for our freedom, who have fought and died and have suffered. And for all the people yet to come into this life, this is my chance to do some good in the world. The best thing I think for me to do in life, for society, is to find myself and to heal, so that I can put out good energy and love and not be like projecting my darkness onto other people. And I'm so proud of myself for that. And yeah.
I think it's a sense of, your mind. You did everything well. I think it's just what your experience is not really terror. It's just you've been so overwhelmed. Your mind's trying to process it, but the spirit's saying, "Let go.
Yes.
You got this." And when you did that thing, and you just let your body do the work, you were really happy about that. Like, thank you for like saving me from myself, because I didn't want to sit there and just doubt and be afraid. And once she stood up and really allowed yourself to just heal, I think when you saw that warrior inside you, you're like, wow, like I can face my fears, I can face destiny. And I think that's a big hurdle for everyone to kind of hurl over. And I had to experience my own death in a way, and I had to face that fear, and I still think about it, and I still have a little bit of fear. I'm still working on understanding it, but like I face it as in when I was looking at a monk of my friend who had his head, bald. He suffered from stress, and when he was talking, it sounded like he was in his like early stages of monkhood. He was in his early stages of figuring out life, and he's getting it, but he had a lot of hindrance. He had a lot of force against him, like his father saying, "You're not good enough," or "Why don't you get a real job?" Or, just negativity, and negativity stacked onto him, Eventually, he passed away by taking too many sleeping pills, and he didn't want to wake up. And he limited himself so much that he only made one video, the 7-minute video, and he described, while walking through the woods, that you need to love, be compassionate, let your love guide you, let it find you. And my friend said, "I need you to watch this video." And it was not my Buddhist friend, but it was my friend Chase's Buddhist friend. And while we were going through this process, I was looking at it like, okay, I don't know the word empathy, but I know I can feel people, and what I need is and at that time I was like, all right, we need to figure this person out now, because you keep coming back to this, and it seems like you're having trouble understanding why he loved everybody. And this monk loved everyone. He didn't want anyone to suffer. He even loved the horrible people who hurt him. And that's where Chase was telling me, like, I hate his dad. I hate what they did to him. And he still loved them. Why? And I said, well, let's dive into it. So I took a 1/4 of a line of meth. Then I did 2 shots of DMT. Then I took some premium Ohio weed with the sativa. And then I sat there and I held that video right in my face, and I watched his eyes, I watched his head, I watched how carefully he intricated love and compassion. And then immediately I was like, oh snap, this person's me. This person's exactly me. I'm going through the same thing he is. I want to die. I don't want to be a burden to anybody. I felt like, my light wasn't good enough. And things resonating, like he says, I might only see 4 or 5 of you, or I can maybe only see 5 of my lifetime. And that resonated with me, is that, hey, he doesn't have that many people in his life, which we should kind of like broaden that horizon, that we are all a part of this web. We are all a part of life. So it's not 5 where he saw himself limited. It's all of life. And that's where my mind was. And I was like, okay, so I'm not as lost as he is. But he does resonate with me. So it scared me to death, because I was like looking at him and taking his words in, and I was like, I don't love my compassion or my stuff because I've always told that it's boring, it's stupid, I'm autistic, or I'm not good enough, and I just believed wholeheartedly in those negatives. So what he was telling me is embrace compassion, and once I started like believing compassion, it's like seeing that Forrest Gump scene where he had those crutches and legs where he was like hindered, and listening to Jenny say, "Run, Forrest, run." He broke from those restraints and he started to be his own man, and he became something beautiful. And that's where me going through Jesse's death and suicide video, I started immediately working on, let's be love, let's be positivity, let's figure these things out. And that's when I went to Instagram and started posting all the philosophies and things I knew. And I posted about 600 like videos in less than 3 days. I started immediately just trying to send out messages to the world that, hey, I exist, I'm alive, and I want to live, and I want to be good, I want to be peaceful, I want peace. And it's not that I want to be happy, it's just I wanted peace for all my pain and suffering. I needed to heal, and that's my outlet. That was like, a way to express myself. And I was doing it more of like on my own. I didn't have a shaman to guide me or a teacher to guide me. It was more of like, hey, there's something not right here, and I'm feeling like I'm dying. I need to get all this stuff out before I die, or something like that. And that's what caused all this light bringing and all this energy to kind of unfold for me. And you probably seen it when I was going through all those messages and talking about darkness, talking about light and stuff like that. I was really struggling to, understand that, hey, you don't have to say anything at all. You just be still and calm. And I was like, no, I gotta figure it out. There's something here. I know it's there, and I just gotta keep being honest. I gotta keep being love, and keep radiating out. Just keep saying things. Keep connecting with people. Keep going. There's something here I'm not seeing, and then basically, to make it simple, the metaphor, I was jumping from A to D, and I skipped B and C. So mentally, I was like missing something in between, and I was like, learning how to like project love. I was learning how to project my light in a positive manner, but I was missing the fundamentals to keep it there. So my mind was just like, we got to figure it out, man. And it's crazy because I felt like if I had like a mentor or a shaman or teacher with me, I would have been able to be more calm and been more centered with everything, if that makes any sense. So mine was more of like I had to break through with force, and kept like I was like in a cave and I'm punching dirt just to dig myself out so I could see the light. I was just like, I gotta get out of this mindset. And then you say, you speak. Once that kind of wall crumbled in my mind, I was able to accept myself. I was able to love myself. I was able to love others without restraint, and I was able to be more free flowing. And I will say, with that, I sometimes exerted myself too much, and sometimes I would be too playful. Sensual, romantic, and I would cross a lot of boundaries. So I'm now learning, hey, limit that. And, it's good to love yourself, but also have some restraint for some people who don't understand where you're coming from, because they'll take it the wrong way and take it offensively too. So I really agree that you have to have that warrior spirit to charge on through these fears. And I was fearing my death. I was fearing, you know, me wanting to kill myself a long, long time ago. I was fearing that, like, that's not who I need to be. That's not my story. I need to keep fighting for answers to truth, and it's out there. Just got to keep pushing myself, and that's why I kept, going so hard, talking to you, talking to the world, is that I had to find reasons to exist, or something like that. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, wow, that was deep. That was powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I resonate. I really do. Um, the analogy you used about being in a cave and trying to punch your way out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that analogy.
Zen master taught me. He said, Dalton, one of the greatest powers is your words. And I was like, oh yeah. And he's a 50-year-old man who's trained in kung fu. He has his own studio in California. They're closed down right now because of coronavirus. But he trained and he did hyper focusing training for martial arts and or kung fu, and he trained for 13 years hyper focusing on neural networking and working his own mind. And then when he was 40 to 50, he got diagnosed with Asperger's, and now his whole world kind of flipped upside down. But he taught me a lot about rewiring your brain and stuff like that. But what he comes back to the words is that you got to look at yourself as like a wizard, and more words you put out there and you let go, it's like casting a fireball. So you write a scroll, you write a sentence, you write like a paragraph, shoot it off, and just like a Roman candle, watch it just light up the sky and let it light your path. So I had a mental image of Goku just sending like da 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 da, just sending out these fireballs, and I was like, that's me right now. I'm shooting out all these messages and talking to all these people because I'm trying to find answers in the dark where I felt dark. And, I had the light to my back. I had this light and energy guiding me, and I was just shooting off messages. I actually was typing so much to everyone and my posts and all that my hand, my thumb cramped. And then I'd be typing with my other fingers and stuff like that. So I was really trying to dig deep at what I'm doing, and every time you would say something masterful, I'll say yes, and I'll do it immediately. And then ask him, when do I need to delete everything? And he says slowly, and I was like, okay, and I just started deleting everyone and everything, and that kind of was like punching the wall. I was trying to dig myself out, like what's important to me. And then once I deleted my friends, once I lost concept that I have no car, I have, I'm failing in all these other things, I was basically freeing myself, if that makes sense. So all of it comes full circle, and it's definitely, I think I lost track again, and I lost track of the beginning, but basically it was me I was trying to call for, like, hey, can you see me? Can you see me? I can't see myself. Can you see me? And then that's when you punch through that wall. It's like, hey, the world does see you. You're just lost in your thoughts. You're like you had this like infection or manifestation of a cloud, and you able to reach above the clouds to see the deal. If that makes sense.
Yes. So the clouds. This is. So I find my idea of enlightenment so far, or at least what it means to me, is that sort of at the bottom of the. I'm going to use a pyramid as an example. So down here, I'm sort of operating on a low frequency in the sense that I'm being controlled by my thoughts, or so I'm letting the thoughts control me by buying into them, and thoughts are thinking and thinking. But then when I'm above, and then there's loads of and it's cloudy, like say, it's very cloudy. Even when there aren't thoughts there, it can be a bit cloudy in the sense that I can't see my path anymore, because there's so much other stuff, so much other energy that isn't serving me, and that I'm not serving. So it's just a waste of exchanging energy. But then if I go up to the top of this kind of pyramid, I like to envision my concepts. It helps me to understand the things that I'm saying. And then I'm at sort of the top of a mountain. Yeah, so I'm at the top of the mountain, and there's no clouds. This goes back to what I was saying about that guided meditation. I can see my path. I can see my path, essentially. I can see what it is I must do, and because I can feel it. And certain things, if I go, for example, I can feel truth from false. So I feel that it's true of me to have this conversation with you. I feel it would be false of me to be rude and just say goodbye, I'm leaving. So there's truth and false. But like the thought, the mind, when the mind comes along, it's like it's just so many variables because there's so many thoughts. So if I'm on top of it, I'm on this idea of enlightenment. I think there's a lot more above that. I think that I can't comprehend, I can't rationalize. It's beyond what the language can comprehend, because the language is, I think the language comes from a dualistic perspective. I am here, you are there. I am talking to you. Whereas when you kind of get out of that duality sense, there is no separation, and it's irrational. It can't be comprehended. So how does one express that in language? So that's the stuff that's like above the pyramid, like above the mountain. All of this like colors, rainbows,
so your mind
sparkles.
it's like a mountain, and your thoughts are the base, and those thoughts is like bullshit, the negativity, self-doubt, and things that don't matter. But what you're saying is, when you were guided through that meditation, is that you went above, and then once you got above those kind of thoughts, you started to see yourself as something more. So the baseline, that's all those things that kind of hinder you and has been locking you away, kind of like a spell or a curse, or something that's not needed. The guided meditation told you that, hey, you are the mountain, and when you go up to the top, you see how beautiful it is. You see how far you come. You look back and you see the lights you change. And for me to find my mountain, I had to go to a lot of light posts, and people were the light posts. They would either be broken, their light wouldn't be working, or maybe they had a good clear light, and I could see clearly a view of like the footprints in the snow. And in my mind, I looked at snow as, hey, as a path. And you'd see people you'd see one path where many people have walked over, and it's really stomped out. And then you would see where the light's telling you to go, and there's no footsteps. So you just keep walking that line straight, and then there'll be another lamppost, or there'll be a lamppost this way or that way. Turn enough, I put that into a poetry slam. I was going to put that and speak about that as a lighthouse. Basically, once I got to my mountaintop, I had a lighthouse, and I could look back, and I could see all the lampposts I've gone to, all the connections I've made, and it's like a web, and they're beautifully not set in the snow. Once I got to the mountain, I was basically at a lighthouse, and all those lamps were like spirits floating on water, and I was in my own canoe floating with them towards a silver lining, which was ahead. And I never tried to manifest or say what's ahead. I just felt comfort in knowing that those spirits behind me, those lampposts or broken lamps, they're all going forward with me. And that light post just was a place to me to climb up and see, hey, there's clarity. You can see above the storm, and then once you leave back down, hey, down there, take what you saw and try to use it to best, guide yourself in the direction you want to go. And that was the difference from a light post to a lighthouse. And the lighthouse is that great mountain. And another thing, a woman who's just like me, she's the yang to my yin. She's very masculine and dominant and very ferocious. God, I love her, and she loves me. And she just messaged me now. Awesome, that's so cool. Anyhow, what she said to me was like, your life is like a mountain, and you shouldn't shield yourself. You shouldn't try to protect the mountain. Let the winds, take chunks out of you. Let the wind hit the mountain like a normal mountain. That's what makes a mountain beautiful, is that it's morphed by the wind, and like the rocks fall off. Things get chunked out of it from just nature itself. But when people go to a mountain, they are humbled by it. They feel homage to go up to the top and see what it sees. And it's that, even though they might have a broken path, maybe someone died on, like Mount Everest, maybe someone died there. There's something there to behold that is very, resonating to the character of our being. And what you're saying, Harry, is that when you have that pinnacle, that triangle, is that your mind sometimes dwells here in the bottom, but once you get to the top, it makes so much sense, and you can't hold on to it. Yeah, it comes and goes, and that was a big thing for me too in Taoism. It's like I was trying to hold on to nirvana, but I can't. It comes and goes, and how my little mind, and again, I don't have masters. I haven't had like teachers that would teach me everything. But what I resonated and recognized is, hey, I can't stay here forever. I have to go back down and continue my work on the surface. But when when I get lost, when I wander too far into darkness, or I spend too much time in the light where I feel like, oh, I don't want to go anywhere because it's scary out there, I go to the mountaintop of my mind, like you have, Harry. And when you get up there, you're like, this makes sense. And then you look forward and then you're like, that's where I'm going. And I think you definitely got it. You definitely sound like the shaman really healed you in a way, and I'm really happy for you, because you did months and months before were suffering. And I think it's not about trying to be happy. I think it's just having peace with yourself, so then you can embrace your love. And then not only when you embrace yourself with love, which is what the shaman was trying to teach you, is that you're able to project love without fear, without having to have your guard up. You're able to be brave because you have yourself. So you are able to, use everything to help. No, you're able to use everything without wasting it. You're not wasting your life. You're putting it to a cause that is love, and that love fuels you. And I really admired that. And you really, you're showing me things too, and I'm still learning. So I think collectively our minds are really resonating together, and it's helping me a lot. Just be patient with myself, and when I can't see myself, relax and maybe take a trip back up the mountain.
Yeah, that's interesting what you said about not clinging on to nirvana. I really appreciate that, because that's something I tend to do as well. And bringing it back to ayahuasca, when I was in that state of just utter terror, I remember I felt like I was losing myself, like in the sense that I was losing. I guess it was a form of ego death, in the sense that I didn't know anything. I was losing myself. And I remember bringing to mind like reasons to keep fighting, ways of empowering myself. I was bringing in, I want to hug my friend Julia when I next see her, and I want to tell my family I love them and I'm sorry for ever hurting them. And I want to see my friends, and I want to go for a walk with them. Yeah, I tell them tell them all the things that I've always been afraid to tell them, in case they judge me. And so I was in a beautiful. And that was beautiful. When I think about it, the things that I was thinking was beautiful, but the thinking itself was the problem. So bringing it back to the mountain analogy, it was almost as if I had fallen way too dark, way too low down, lower than I've ever fallen before. Like I had tripped down and I was rolling down, and then there was a dark forest that was inhabited with dark entities that were not friendly, and I was afraid of. I could have sent them love, I could have welcomed them, but I was too afraid. And I was climbing this mountain, and there were thorns sticking out of it. Like, it's dark down here, really demonic stuff, and loads of thorns, loads of spears sticking out of it. And every time I'd try and grab onto another thought to pick myself up, like I'm being stabbed by all of this stuff. So the thoughts were, I felt like the thoughts were my last chance to make it, to get up to this place where I feel like I am alive, I feel like I exist, and have a place in this world. And so the thoughts were so the anxiety, I was spinning out, and I was deluded, I was losing myself. And So my mind was, a tornado was going on in my mind.
Awesome.
It is awesome.
I
Like,
think
now that
again,
you say it is awesome.
you have to go through the hardest experiences to find yourself. Like losing myself to my own madness, and not madness, I would say the mania, which I learned in my therapy at day 7 in the psych ward, is that you can experience high intensity of mania, but with that mania comes also madness, and you can lose yourself to madness a little bit. And I think when we are just not doing what we need to do, like listen to our intuition, not listen to ourselves, our mind clucks in like, hey, we gotta push ourselves this time. This is the moment. This is the final boss battle. This reminds me of Ace Combat, what being in airplanes, and there you have like a team of 4 other fighter jets with unique skills and abilities. And I'm like, hey guys, this is it. We have no other life. If you die, you die. We have to fight and get this boss taken down, or we lose humanity. And it resonates like that because you have to go through this hard struggle where you're losing your mind, you're losing yourself, and you want to say "I love you" before everything ends. Like honestly, I resonate with that too. When I was going through the whole death thing, a woman came to visit me who lost everything, and I put every inch of my energy to say "I love you," kiss her, embrace her, massage her, and tell her. And what she did afterwards, she's like, Dalton, I struggled loving myself, and I just said, believe me who believes in you, I love you, and you make me smile because you are yourself. And that was like as you said, Harry, is like you wanted to tell people stuff you're afraid to. And she, to me, I'm a big man, and she to me was like a 10, and I felt like just out of place myself. But when she was opening up to me and really accepting me and staring into my eyes, I was like, I just want to sit here and breathe. I just want to sit here and stare into your eyes. And what I saw in her eyes was myself, and I started smiling back, like she's accepting me, she understands me, and she wants to embrace me, she wants to hold me. And I think that's where that love for yourself comes in, is that you love yourself so much that people will love you for being yourself. And that is like what you're saying too, is that you're willing to fight for it. You're willing to take on this horrible pain. And it goes back to the girl I was just talking about. When she left, I went and faced my death. I was sticking middle fingers out to the darkness, and I had this kind of hysteria where my mind was showing these lightning bugs as green laser lights. Oh, they're coming for me. I guess I need to be prepared for death. But what I did was instead of go out there and try to fight it, I opened my window to darkness, and I'm terrified of darkness. I've always been afraid of darkness since I was a kid. I open my window, stick my hand out, and I say, fuck you! And then I say, I love you. And then I close my window real fast because I'm like, fuck that shit. You're really tempting death, aren't you? So I'd close my window, go back in, and just hide everything. But then I'd get up again, and I'd be like, okay, I'm really terrified, and I'm just, I'm ready just to face the end now. Just go ahead and take me out. So I'd stand at the window in this complete darkness. I was like, if you're going to do it now. Do it now. And I was like, they're not doing it. So I opened the window again, and I'd say, fuck you! And then I'll go, I love you. And then I'd close the window again. And my mind was in madness. And it's exactly what your experience is like. You had to push your hand through that thorn and just say, I'm doing this because I love myself, and I want to get out of this controlled kind of mindset where I don't love myself, or I don't know how to really describe it, because I went off and figured this out kind of on my own. So it was more like, it's more, I can't speak it. It was all intuitive. Like my brain was telling me what to do, and or not brain, but my soul was speaking to me what to do. And it was teaching me to not fear darkness, because being scared of it, I didn't have a roommate there at the time, and I didn't have my friends there at the time. So it was just kind of like, I had to face this all on my own kind of deal. My mom's like, embrace it, fight it, challenge it, And the first thing I was like, okay, I need to get a weapon or exercise, and I didn't get a weapon. I didn't bring any firearms or anything. I only had myself, and I felt like I was enough. I was the tool of the world, and I don't need a weapon to be safe. I had to embrace everything. I had to love everything, and that was the hard part of like experiencing death. So then once I met death, this is going off into another subject. Once I faced death, I loved him or loved her. I accepted her or accepted him. And when I saw him as a manifestation, I looked at that and played with it. Like it was looking at it like a mirror. So when I moved left, it moved left, and I was like, "Haha! What about right?" And then I moved right, and then I started dancing, and it started dancing. And that manifestation taught me that death doesn't want your death. It doesn't want you to feel like not beautiful, because you are beautiful. And the death, like as like all our movies would see, is death would play games with you, and it does want a game. It does want to play. It wants you to play with life and experience life, and it wants to experience it with you together. So I realized that death, when I faced it, it was just a nice thing that I surrendered to, and it was like, it's all right to be afraid of death, but I should embrace it as my own, and embrace it that it's a part of my life, and that it's a gift that once it comes, I've done everything I needed to do. I don't have to worry about anything else anymore. And it was almost like death was like, exactly, let's go out and have a fun time dancing. And I was like, I'm grabbing the boom box, and then he's out there or she's out there dancing, and I'm dancing too. And it's just like I felt like I connected one with nature, one with life in that moment. But if I explain that to a normal person, they're like, "What the fuck were you drinking? What were you on?" But like I had to face that, so then I could get over my fears, and I think that's where you dived in that demonic place where you should have, you said you should have loved them, accepted them, and not let them like terrorize you. But I think like once you embrace that darkness, you realize there's nothing to fear. There's only things to learn from it. That's what dived me into the philosophy of satanicism or occultism and stuff like that. And I've been reading about that a little bit, or talking to people who do experience that. And it's more pleasant once I understand. It's more easier to like, oh, okay, so that's why the goat head and that stuff's happening. That's pretty dark, but I understand where that's coming from. But it's hard to conceptualize with the thoughts that you've already had for yourself. And I'm going to stop there because I feel like I'm rambling on too much, and I want to let you have a word in once because you probably have a lot of questions.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna ask you more about Satanism and occultism because I know nothing about them, if I'm honest. Is that too big of a question?
I wouldn't say that's too big of a question. It's just for me, I'm learning about it, and I wouldn't say that I am particularly well at that stuff or
Right.
diving into it right now. Again, I'm still practicing Taoism. I'm sticking with that
Yeah.
because that's really my favorite right now. And then I want to do Buddhism. But it's on my radar of like, hey, there's some knowledge that I can learn from this. There's some knowledge I can learn from Wicca, black magic, and paganism. I think paganism is another one I want to learn too, and that's like listening to the Earth Mother Gaia, and that's for all energy resonates is from nature. Like as my masters would say, how does a fan work? Energy. Where does energy come from? I don't know. Well, does it come from sunlight? Yes. Does it come from the water? Yes. Does it come from wind? Yes. So energy itself comes from nature, and nature itself is, it brings being, it brings life. So there's stuff in paganism I want to learn. So I feel like there's some knowledge I can gain from that. So, and another big word I learned is omnism or omniism, which is accepting of all religions and philosophies as truth. And all their lessons are love. Like Buddhist is love, Christianity is love. All of it's love, and it's just interpreted in different ways for different characters. And And that's where like I'm learning a lot for my own mind is to learn their lessons so then I can deal with whatever enemy I have to deal with or whatever. I wouldn't even say enemy. I don't have any enemy. I would say particularly any stones that come across my path while I'm flowing through life. So then I can guide easier around it instead of like, I got to destroy this stone because it's in my way. And I think we all hit that stone sometimes so hard that we become concussed or confused and lose sight of what's important. And that is just to breathe and let go and just flow with life. And again, that's what I was saying earlier when we began this conversation. Is I need to remind myself to breathe and stop. Because again, life is a lot, and I think you know that, and I know that. And when you get a crash course, you become overwhelmed, and then when you become overwhelmed, you can't see clearly because you're trying to process too much.
Well, I feel like that's a good stopping place. I feel like that was like
I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, that was
I really loved it.
Yeah, that was really. Thank you so much for sharing this, and thank you for your enthusiasm as well for this project, and thank you for being truthful, like for being yourself. Like you seem like you don't feel like I feel like you haven't like put on a mask before starting this. You seem so real. Like you're such a real being. Like. Thank you for your existence. Thank you for being present in my life.
I'm here to help you as you're to help me. Like for a long time, I wanted to do a podcast and just talk my thoughts out to the world and be think about the message that I wanted to talk to the world. And I think you hit on it best. It's just spread love. Spread acknowledgement that you're not alone in suffering. We all suffer, and that's what makes us great friends. And that's what makes me friends with a lot of people out there who are suffering. And if there was a message to give out to anybody, if anyone's listening and confused or lost, hey, you're not alone. We all go through tragic times. And even some people might not love you. Some people might hate you. And I've been pushed away before. And last night I actually got in trouble with Facebook and got banned for 3 days. But that doesn't matter. It's just that you got to go through these experiences to be. And like the podcast thing, I was so excited when you mentioned it to me because I wanted to resonate with you, and I felt like we had like good energy to have that back and forth like a tennis match. Not that we're trying to win or anything. There's no win. There's no me trying to best you or you best me. I think we're collectively, just like the trees, just trying to embrace the light, understand the light, play with it, absorb it, and just grow from it. And that's the humbling part of this whole podcast is that, you see me, I see you. And I think that's what makes this kind of beautiful in its own essence.
Yeah.
Again, I love you, and I love that you came to me to do this stuff. And don't worry about expressing gratitude. I already felt that through just having this one-on-one conversation. And there's more to your story too. I have to pick on, so I feel like we should have it around too sometime.
Absolutely,
really talk more about that shaman stuff too, because I think you got through the cup part of the warrior phase, but then. How did you embrace it after? I think that would be our round two, just kind of going through that and seeing how that all went. Because I never sat with a shaman and had that happen to me. So that's really insightful that you're bringing that to me to see and be clear with it. Because that's something cool. I want to try sometime myself in my life, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll wait. Yeah, we'll wait a little while, and then we'll integrate some lessons, and then we'll come back together, and we'll tell each other, we'll update each other, and then we'll keep going. And also the tennis analogy, I like that. But I think that what you're saying about it not being competitive, I think the idea of because I like to play badminton, and I like to.
I love
keep the rally going. So the idea is to keep the rally going so that we can learn
just keep it
new shots and new ways of breaking free of the cave.
that's the fun thing too. Is you made me understand. Like when I was playing with my Zen master David, he and I used to get really drunk and play table tennis, and he was so good that he would beat me all the time. But the things we loved most, the things that blew our mind, is when we were so in unison that the match would go on for 5 to 7 minutes, and we were like, "Oh, you are on my level," and he's, "No, you're on my level," and then like we would dance, then come back to the table, and then we would drunk and like, "I'm gonna beat you," and he's like, "No, I'm gonna beat you," and it was just like that energy there. It's very impactful, and that's what I felt here too. It's like you really bounced off of my questions, and I bounced off of your questions really well. And that makes a good conversation, and I think you really captured that really well here. And as you said earlier, do you have anything you want me to remove? I don't. I think it's all good, a good conversation, and I think it's good to express self and be truthful. So yeah, I really felt like it was a really good session, my man, for sure.
Awesome, man. Thank you for the feedback, and I look forward to sharing this video with people. And I'm also going to capture key points that you've raised and put some music to it, and maybe a bit of artwork in the background. Have you seen the one that I put of David, cool. My friend David, talking about shamanism? I'll send you a link. It's only about 3 minutes long, very brief, but that's kind of like I think it's kind of a way of like, oh, that's an interesting point. Oh, that's an interesting point. That's an interesting point. Oh, these are interesting things that these people are talking about, and there's a lot of love being expressed here. It's not anger. It's not like I'm right and you're wrong. It's all like, okay, so this is what I feel. You feel this. You feel this, and bringing it together. It's a co-creation. Life is a co-creation.
Nature grows in many forms, in many ways.
Yeah, man. Wow. It's been awesome, man. I look forward to the next one. We'll be in touch.
Harry? Indeed, Harry. You have a blessed day, man. I'm gonna get ready. I got another interview to do. I gotta go talk to a therapist, so that's the next thing on my list of things. So yeah, man, it's good, man, and yeah, I'm gonna take a lot of this knowledge, and I look forward to the next time, brother. You take it easy.
Yeah, you too. Have a fantastic day. Peace out.
You too, man. Peace out.